It's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
What is up, guys, and welcome to FPL Today. I'm the man in the know, JNO, and welcome to a new series that will hopefully go out through the whole season, the watch list. This will be a series where hopefully I will just discuss all the players I'm keeping an eye on. It won't necessarily be 100% stats based, although that might come into play every now and again, but it's a video and a series where I will just explain to you which players I'm looking at from the sides that I'm probably going to target moving forward through the season. So every video on this series, I want you to put down in the comments the players that you are going to be watching and likely to bring in if their performances are good throughout the season. Now in this video, the watch list is probably going to be a bit bigger than it will be for the rest of the season, purely because we don't have much to play off of as the season hasn't started. And we will start off with the mid-price watch list where, as you can see, we are targeting teams we think have at least some favourable fixtures in the first 6 game weeks. We have Tottenham Hotspurs, Chelsea, Southampton, Liverpool, Fulham, Everton, Arsenal, Man United and Man City. And in this series we hope to nail it down to the few players we're considering instead of looking at the team as a whole. So we'll start off with Tottenham Hotspurs, who do have a nice looking fixture list to start off the season with. The first 6 include Everton, Southampton, Newcastle, Man United, West Ham and Burnley. And whilst there is a plethora of options that I am considering overall, in this series we won't be focusing too much on the premium price players because I think those players kind of speak for themselves if the fixtures are good. So the likes of Son and Kane didn't make it into this video purely because it's a premium player and you're going to know if you want to bring him in or not. So we have in the mid-price watch list for Spurs, Dele Alli at 8 million. Now, yes, he has been injured recently. He wasn't playing during Project Restart and it is a bit of a punt to be fair. However, Dele Alli for part of the season under Mourinho did seem to be a very important player to the way Mourinho wanted to set up and seemed more central than the likes of Son. Now, I prefer Son as a player, but he is more expensive than Dele Alli and does seem to be given the role of playing out wide on the left, which doesn't involve him in the play as much as I want. Now, Son has done great during pre-season, but it's been whilst Kane has been on international duty. So there's a bit of a question mark or an asterisk next to Son's name for me, just as much as there is next to Dele Alli's. The second player we're keeping an eye on is Matt Doherty, who has of course made the move to Tottenham Hotspurs. Now there's a few caveats with Doherty at Spurs. There's the plus side, which is Spurs seem to set up in a system that has the right back get rather far forward and be part of the attacking 5 in the final third, which would suit Matt Doherty, you'd think, to a T. However, in the Wolves setup, Doherty was allowed to cut inside of the likes of Adama Traore and get into the box, which was a big reason as to why he scored so many goals. However, Aurier in Mourinho's system did seem to stick to the wing, which means you're looking for potentially more assists, more crosses from Doherty, and I think his strongest point is getting into the box and getting into the dangerous positions, and the defenders of the opposition don't quite track him, and that's why he gets the goals he does. So I'm definitely watching him. He could even make it into my starting 11, but I think he's definitely worthy of a place on this watch list considering Spurs' fixtures. We move on to Chelsea, and I probably won't talk too long about Chelsea because a lot of their players don't necessarily have much pedigree in the Premier League as their new transfers in, but Chelsea do have Brighton Hove Albion followed by Liverpool, which of course is the tough fixture, then West Bromwich Albion away, Crystal Palace and Southampton at home, followed by Manchester United in game week 6. Now there's definitely of course the likes of Timo Werner, but I put him in the premium price bracket as far as my considerations go, so he's not going to make it into the mid-price shortlist. The players I'm really considering for this slot are Pulisic and Havertz at 8.5 million. Now, the fact that they've been priced the same means I'm going to have to make a choice most likely, because I believe I'm going to have Timo Werner for a lot of the season if he hits the ground running. The reason I'm overlooking the likes of Ziyech is because I think at 8.5 million, just 0.5 million more, both Havertz and Pulisic are going to offer more goal threat. I think Ziyech will be a massive part of the way Chelsea play potentially, but I think his deep crosses to the far post could be finding Pulisic a lot. Pulisic is my preferred option, but of course there's still some slight injury worries around him, and Havertz has come in and apparently hit the ground running during training, so we're going to be keeping an eye on him as well. We then move on to Southampton with Crystal Palace, Spurs, Burnley, West Bromwich Albion, Chelsea and Everton. And There's lots of players under consideration, but I think when it comes down to it, Southampton for me are either going to be where I get my value from, and value of course is found in the likes of Alex McCarthy, Carl Walker-Peters, Stuart Armstrong, James Ward-Prowse and Shay Adams. Ward-Prowse and Shay Adams could have made it into the mid-price, but I haven't put them there. But the one I really want, and probably is going to make it into my side, is Danny Ings. He seems like the talisman at that club, although I have heard he's been playing a kind of inside forward role with Shay Adams leading the line during pre-season, which will be one to watch. But Danny Ings just seems like the most sensible route into a Southampton side if I really want to attack their fixtures, especially after the stellar season he had last year. As far as Liverpool, we got Trent and of course Robertson. The reason they're both here is because I'm tempted to go with the Liverpool double up, purely because if they both score around 200 points, that's 400 points in total for 14.5 million. But again, both have been spoken about loads, so I won't go into it too much. Fulham have decent fixtures as well. It does start with Arsenal, which of course isn't great, but then it's Leeds, Aston Villa, Wolves, Sheffield United and Crystal Palace. However, for me right now, I don't know enough about that Fulham side, and no one stood out as far as the stats or any articles I've read that make me want to look at anyone other than Alexander Mitrovic. His goal scoring record in the Premier League the season before they got relegated and in the Championship showed that he is a goal scorer. He's going to be involved in a lot of the goals that Fulham score. So if Fulham do get a goal, even in a 2-1 defeat or a 3-1 defeat, Mitrovic is probably going to be involved. So he's really the only one I'm watching right now. As far as Everton are concerned, right now for me, Dominic Calvert-Lewin has a bit of a way to go to convince me that he deserves a spot on my watch list. And Richarlison is a player that, if you've watched me for a while, you know I just don't get on with personally. But Everton do look like they're really improving their midfield. And if all the transfers go through that are meant to, Rodriguez I believe has now gone through, but he's not been priced yet. Allen has signed for Everton as well, and they're meant to be getting Decore. Then I think this Everton side could be a good look for the season. I'm really interested in what price Rodriguez comes in at. I can't imagine him being over 8.5 though, so he makes the mid-price watch list for now, and I will be watching him closely, seeing if he can kind of pick up the form that he had in around 2014 time when the whole world was talking about him. And then of course Lucas Digne, because he's a left back that can definitely have attacking output, assists, does take free kicks, could get goals, so he's someone I'm going to watch. And if he's given a licence to kind of have a season like he had a couple of seasons ago, then he could be straight into my side. We move on to Arsenal, and the only person in the mid-price watch list that I'm going to be keeping an eye on is probably Willian at the moment. I have a feeling he may be given an important role in that Arsenal side. I'm hoping Saka still starts, of course. But if he is given an important role, it'll be interesting to see how he takes that and what he does with that, because he's kind of played second fiddle a lot at Chelsea, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do at Arsenal. So he makes the watch list, but he could quite easily fall out. Then of course we have Man United and Man City, who both do blank in game week 1, but we're keeping an eye on the likes of Greenwood at 7.5 million because he just seems great value. Of course his stats weren't as great as his actual goal scoring record last season, but Greenwood is a very nice and cheap way into that United side if they don't sign anyone else. And at the time I did the graphics, Van der Beek didn't have a price yet, so I'm assuming he will come in the mid-price bracket as well, and it'll be interesting to see how he fits into that Man United side. Maybe he will come into our consideration. As for Man City, to be fair, all the players I've put in this have now had issues come out after I made the graphic. I was interested in Mahrez and Laporte, but both have now tested positive for the condition that means they will have to self-isolate, which could of course affect their preparation for the start of the season. And we have Phil Foden, who I'm probably not going to say anything about what they did on a YouTube channel where I want to stay monetized. But Foden was definitely one I was interested in seeing if he becomes a player that will play the majority of the games in the season. If he does, he just seems great value at 6.5 million. Before we get onto the budget watch list, here is a quick word from one of the partners of this channel, Fan Team, who of course are doing their €1 million prize pool game for the Premier League fantasy football season. Put your FPL skills to the test and turn €25 into a €200,000 payday. With 1 million in leaderboard prizes, there's plenty of money up for grabs. Pick your squad of 15 players with a 100 million budget. and pick the players that will earn you a cool part of that €1 million prize pool. And if you like daily and weekly fantasy games too, there's even more money to be won. So join Fan Team today and start to make money playing FPL using the link in the description down below. And who knows, maybe some of the players I am talking about will play a big part in a good season for you on Fan Team. It's just fun to play a game like fantasy football with such a big prize pot that you can potentially get a part of if you have a good season. But we move on to the budget price watch list, and you can see we're focusing on some very similar sides here, but some sides do come in that didn't really make the mid-price watch list because they didn't have any players I was very interested in that price bracket. But we are focusing on Tottenham Hotspurs again, Chelsea, Southampton, Leicester have a player in here, Arsenal, Man United, Sheffield United and Newcastle. We'll go over Tottenham again quickly. We've got Ben Davies coming in at 5 million. I know a lot of people are looking at Eric Dyer as well, but Mourinho has said how important Ben Davies is to his system, and at 5 million I think Mourinho's team are improving defensively. Lloris, of course, is back, and they showed good defensive form in Project Restart. I know they weren't great over the entirety of the season, but in Project Restart they look good, and at 5 million I think just 0.5 million more than a 4.5 million option, he is someone I'm considering. With Chelsea, Reece James, if he can nail down that right back spot again at 5 million, I think he could be an absolute steal. Of course, there's the worry that in tougher fixtures, Azpilicueta will get that spot. So again, I'm going to be watching how Chelsea line up. And with Southampton, there's a few cheap options you can consider, but the main ones to focus on here are Kyle Walker-Peters and Armstrong at 5.5 and 4.5 for Kyle Walker-Peters. Now, McCarthy could have made this cut, of course, but I think goalkeeper-wise, you want to just pick one and stick with it, at least until your wild card. Kyle Walker-Peters has shown he is capable of scoring goals and getting assists at his time at Spurs, so it'd be interesting to see what he does, although a double up on Southampton defence isn't really something I want to commit to very early. And Armstrong at 5.5 million is a decent shout at that price range, although with the changes at Newcastle United, which we'll get onto, I think I prefer St. Maximin at the moment. Leicester City, of course, have a decent fixture list in the first 6. However, overall, they don't look as good as they did at the early start of last season. They kind of tailed off at the end of the season just gone. They have West Bromwich Albion, Burnley, Man City, West Ham, Aston Villa and Arsenal in their first 6. And there is always the potential that they do well, but with selling Chilwell, not having Ricardo Pereira, and with Maddison coming back from an injury, I just don't feel that confident in that Leicester side. However, when you're spending 4.5 million on a defender, you don't mind too much, and I think Justin is the one more likely to start than Luke Thomas with the new signing of Castan. Probably said that wrong, but Justin can play both left back and right back as far as I'm aware, and if that's the case, I think he will be the one that keeps his place. Arsenal have a few options that I am interested in, although their fixtures do turn after game week 2. Now, for me, if you're going for anyone over 6 million, ideally Aubameyang would be your man, but under that, you do have some players that could be worth consideration. You've got Tierney at 5.5 million, who I think if he's allowed license to get forward, could be an amazing option. And then you've got Saka also at 5.5 million that you could definitely take a look at. I know there's worry about him starting, but he's definitely going to stay on my watch list because I think Saka has looked really good. And then Martinez in goal. If he can keep that spot, you've got a 4.5 million goalkeeper at a club that should be challenging for the top 6. So Martinez definitely earns a place on this shortlist. Then you have Man United with Luke Shaw making the shortlist. I just think when he's fit and in that side, he does have a decent attacking output and gets in good positions. So at 5 million, he might be worth a cheeky punt. Sheffield United make the cut with Wolves, Aston Villa, Leeds, Arsenal, Fulham and Liverpool in the first 6. And I think there you have 4 teams that might not necessarily score a lot of goals against them. So I'm considering Ramsdale. I know he's 0.5 more than the goalkeepers, so I probably won't jump on that straight away. But he's definitely someone I'm going to be keeping an eye on, as well as Egan, who is the cheapest way into that Sheffield United defence that did so well last season. And then finally we have Newcastle, and we are waiting on prices, but when I made this graphic, Callum Wilson and Ryan Fraser hadn't signed for Newcastle yet. Now, depending on what price they come in at, they could be considerations now, but I do think it also benefits St. Maximin as far as making him someone that might be worthy of our consideration. He's now got some better players around him that could finish more of the chances or create chances for him. And at 5.5 million, I think apart from Saka, he's the pick of the bunch in that price bracket. So I'm definitely interested in seeing what St. Maximin does, and he'll probably start in my Game Week 1 side. Anyway guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. It's a lot more talking, less graphics based, but it is about the players I'm considering and the teams I'm focusing on for the up and coming fixtures. And as the season goes on, new players will come in, players will go out, and we will hopefully keep our mind set on the correct players to be bringing in to our FPL sides. So if you have enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I've been JNO, this has been FPL Today, and remember, it's all about the game.